What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Microtech LUDT automatic. Very, very cool knife. I'd like to thank my buddy Spirited Whiskey from Instagram for sending this guy along, lending it to me, along with some other amazing pieces if you guys saw his unboxing videos a while back. So if you see him down in the comments section or you'd like to give him a follow on Instagram, I think that'd be a good idea. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, unboxings, discussion topics. I've got Quest for the Perfect Budget Knife on Saturdays, and I've got The Knife Guy on Sundays. I also like to do a lot of giveaways. If you like daily knife content and that all sounds good to you, go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure your notifications are set to all, because there's definitely a lot more content coming. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a long time and you're enjoying my content, please feel free to follow the link in the description to my Patreon. Have a look around, and then if you'd like to support me, you can join any tier. It would absolutely mean the world to me, and it really helps out with the continuation of this channel. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at this knife. This knife is always requested. Like, people are like, when are you going to take a look at the LUDT? Why haven't you reviewed that? So I'm really excited. I hope you guys are too. This is an iconic knife. A lot of people are very aware of it. Overall length of the LUDT coming in at a fantastic 8 inches overall, a blade length of about 3.4. Yeah, just under 3.5, and then a cutting edge of just a hair over 3 inches. It's like 3 1/8 or something like that. Now that's a sweet spot for a lot of people. The glaring problem with this knife being that, you know, for some people it's over the legal limit in terms of blade length, but the major factor here is that this is an automatic knife. So a lot of you guys, you know, are just watching because it's like, I can't carry an automatic knife in my state. I can't even own one. I just want to watch a video on it, hear your thoughts on it. That's great. You know, that is something you have to consider. If you're not aware of that, you do need to check what, you know, if you're already like, I'm 2 minutes and 7 seconds in Complex and I'm going to buy this, make sure it's legal in your area, not just by length, but the automatic nature of a knife. It's the same with any automatic knife, absolutely, and not just, you know, OTFs. This is definitely an automatic knife. Anyways, let's do some size comparisons here up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. So you can see there, very similar in terms of like blade height and handle height, and just actually dimensionally, I've never realized this, but the LUDT and the Rat are very, very similar in terms of the lines for the handle and the I mean, look at that. Did you guys know that? The LUDT is like a smaller automatic Rat in terms of the look. There's obviously some differences here, but very similar in terms of the lines there. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall, so you can see there's a little bit longer than the LUDT. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall, so you can see there, perfect size comparison. A little bit taller in blade, a little bit bulkier in handle, but it's definitely the same size. I get a similar feeling handling them both back to back. Last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches. How's the action? Well, it's an automatic knife, so you're met with resistance on the way down, but true to the nature of automatic knives and automatic knives from Microtech, it is extremely snappy. You can see there, it is absolutely shaking my wrist. There is absolutely recoil. There is a massive stop pin back here to catch, and there is good contact. No shouldering, but good contact there, and it absolutely does lock up. Absolutely solid. That's something that's great about Microtech automatics. You don't have that fussy play that you sometimes get with automatic knives. People who are familiar with the Benchmade, what is that thing called? I can't remember. Very popular automatic knife that runs, I think it's discontinued now, but it used to run about the same price. Those knives would always have a little bit of play up, down, left, and right, and it was, you know, it was acceptable on automatic knives. I've talked about this before. You know, you get that, especially on knives that are under $100 that are automatic. You get a little bit of play. No play in this guy whatsoever. You should expect it to be absolutely solid when you get it. So that's pretty cool. How about weight on this guy? Let's do that before I forget. I'm always forgetting to weigh things. So we're looking at the industry standard for any automatic knife, which is aluminum. I'm okay with aluminum. I'm kind of wondering why we don't see more, and this isn't a slight against Microtech or anybody, but Microtechs and Protechs tend to be the two flagship automatic knife companies that are out there, and they both always use aluminum. Aluminum's fine, but I mean, like this Protech Strider is in titanium, and that works too, but it's substantially more money. For whatever reason, we see way less titanium automatic knives out there. Now, that's definitely going to add to the cost, but it's interesting that we can get a lot of US titanium frame lock flippers like some of the ZT knives for between $240 and $280. We'll see the same prices on US automatic knives, but they'll be using aluminum. And if you see an automatic in titanium, whether it's from Microtech or Protech, it's usually well over $400. I don't know why that is, guys. I'm hoping we see more titanium automatic knives in the future, but it's not a slight against this knife, absolutely. Weight on the LUDT coming in, an unsurprising 3.53 ounces, which is exactly the same as the Knockout we reviewed yesterday. That's great considering you have about, a 3.4 inch blade. It's only got 3.1, 3.2 inches of cutting edge, but it's very close in terms of blade, the whole ounce and inch thing. So I'm happy with that. Like I always say, it's way more about carry profile, and this thing has an excellent carry profile. Not super duper thick, not really tall, nothing really sticking out that causes a problem in the pocket. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's really cool. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this knife. What we have is a very simple drop point blade that is very thin. I want to say this is probably about 125 thousandths. Let's take a look. Possibly a little thinner. We'll find out. Ooh, no, is it really thinner? These calipers are not incredibly reliable, so take my measurement with a grain of salt. Yeah, I'm going to guess it's 125 thousandths. That makes sense. Let's put it up against the Ritter Hogue, which I know is 125 thousandths. Yeah, it's crowned, so that might be a little bit of an optical illusion, but it honestly does look a little tiny bit. I bet it's a 120 thousandths, 115 to 120 thousandths. The reason that's important in a world where blade thickness is often something that is just, for whatever reason, a lot of our EDC knives are just a little too thick. That's great. Awesome thickness on this guy. You've got a drop, like I said, drop point blade. You've got a flat that carries out about 75 to 80% the length, and you've got a good drop down to the cutting edge. The cutting edge is super thin. Ooh, man, that is a freaking laser beam of an edge. Absolutely a performance ground blade. You do end up with a tip that's fairly thin and pointy. Not quite as bad as the PM2, but you can see there we're close. So you do have to be cognizant if you're like, I like to jam my blades in keyholes and dig around, while I'm picking locks, and I break a lot of if you're that type of person, be cognizant of this. Maybe use a pry bar or a hammer, instead of your pocket knife. But seriously, be aware of that. We're looking at a black DLC coated version of this. The LUDT, alongside many other production Microtech models, has a vast array of different colors and coatings and finishes and blah, blah, blah. So this particular setup is one that I like. It's a gray, a Battleship gray, and a DLC, which is the same setup that I've got on my Spyderco Man X2. I like that a lot. You can get these in red and purple and green and blue and whatever, and then you can get a stonewash finish, a satin finish, an apocalyptic finish. They've got a whole bunch of stuff. So if you like the profile, you like the style of the knife, it's legal in your area, but you don't like this color setup, rest assured you can pretty easily find your color and style of choice out there. Their DLC coating looks to be very similar to what we see on the tungsten-based DLC stuff, which means the coating itself is probably approaching 80 Rockwell. Very, very hard, very, very durable. That seems to be the case. I don't see a lot of Microtech coatings wearing off readily, so that's a real, it's a real coating. It's going to be very durable. Something that's typical of Microtech knives is to just put a whole bunch of crap all over the blade. I don't really like that, but that's Microtech. We've kind of gotten used to it, so I guess it is what it is. It's not really that big of a deal. If you're wondering what LUDT stands for, L Underwater Demolition Team. So there you go. I'm not familiar with that specific thing. I would imagine it's something you can just Google if you want specifics on it, but that's what it is. Generally, Microtech will print the serial number on there. They'll let you know that it is, in fact, a Microtech and made in the USA, and then they'll list the date of manufacturing. This is very new, September of 2019, so this is an example of an extremely new model. Something that's awesome is the fact that they're making these in 204P. What's 204P? It's Carpenter's version of M390 or Carpenter's version of 20CV. 20CV, 204P, and M390 are all the same steel, same composition. Somebody asked me the other day, is M390 a good steel? And this is why I talk about this. For those of you who are like, why does he keep talking about what M390, like, we know that. Well, listen, this world is expanding. There's a lot of newcomers, and I feel that it's good to talk about these things for new people. Guys, if you don't know, 204P, M390, and 20CV are amongst the most prestigious EDC steels out there. They're not the best steels for every single application. Obviously, you don't want a machete, or it's not obvious, you don't want a machete made out of M390 because it's not super tough. But in an EDC folding knife like this, you don't necessarily need all the toughness in the world. You need a little bit, but stats like or characteristics like corrosion resistance and edge retention are often ones that are very highly regarded in the EDC world, and this has okay toughness but accentuates those other two qualities. That's what makes this such an amazing steel, and it's oftentimes, you know, it's not only the process and the fact that, you know, besides M390, 204P and 20CV are made in the United States, but there is kind of an expensive process to it, so it tends to be an expensive steel, but a very, very good steel. So rest assured, you are getting one of the most premium blade steels out there, and that's cool because these used to be in LMAX or S35VN. Those steels are fine, and a lot of people might prefer them over 204P. I'm really happy to see 204P on this knife, absolutely. On the other side, there's nothing. I kind of feel like Microtech, maybe you should divide this up a little bit and put it up here, and then on the other side put a little bit more over here instead of this big billboard on the front, but that's okay, no big deal. You do have a large area sharpening choil that actually kind of doubles as a choke-up position. It's not quite a choil, and it's kind of the same thing, you know, that I've said about the Rat, given that they're about the same, you know, it's just, this is a medium-sized version of the Rat 1. This whole area here probably could have been a forward choil or a finger choil, and it just, because of how they chose to do the lines on this knife, it just isn't. Excuse me, I'm putting my phone once again on airplane mode to avoid any interruptions. Is it that big of a deal? No, it's still pretty comfortable, honestly. I can get my finger up there. You just have to be aware of it. Like if you're outside and it's really cold and you're not really paying attention to where your hands are, it's gonna be pretty easy to run up on the blade. So you can choke up, just be careful about where you're putting your hands. The best thing about the blade is that it's fully flat ground. There's no thumb studs. There's nothing in the way. So in terms of a knife that you're going to use and cut over and over and over and over again, you don't have to be aware of anything in the blade path or the cutting path. Everything's out of the way. You've got a performance blade that's going to be great at pressure cuts or slicing cuts, pokey, piercy tasks. Fantastic blade shape. I love it. Let's take a look at the handle here. We have excellent chamfering all the way around. You know, it's not contouring, but it's just very, very good chamfering. It's nice and round. I really like that. The button is not completely recessed. It's slightly recessed, which is perfect. That alleviates the need for a safety. I think safeties are ridiculous on automatic knives. Some people like them. This knife doesn't seem like one where I'd really worry about it going off in my pocket. You have to, you know, push the button with a deliberate nature. You have to be aware that you're going to push that button. It's pretty easy to find. If you pull this knife out of your pocket and you push the button, you know, look around for the button, you're going to find it and be able to push it. What's the benefit of that? I always talk about this in a utilitarian sense. It's really easy for people to look at automatic knives and go, weapon, weapon, weapon. You know, no, listen, the best thing about an automatic knife is if you're, I'm going to use the ladder thing again. If you're up on a ladder and you've got a hand busy and you got to worry about balance, and you have to worry about what's in your left hand, and at the same time you need to make a cut, which has definitely happened to me. Anybody who works construction has been in this situation. Actually, anybody who just does a lot of working with their hands has been in this situation or a similar one, right? It's nice to be able to pull this out of your pocket and just push a button and it deploys, instead of having to, you know, screw around with some mechanism and something. You just push the button and it deploys. You can make your cut. Now the downside is you want to close it with one hand. You're working against tension that's keeping, you know, that's trying to push the blade back out, so it can easily fly back out of your hands, fall down into the abyss, whatever's below you. You know, you got to be careful about that. It's easy to cut yourself. That's the downside to an automatic knife, is you got to push it all the way down until it clicks back into place. Not that big of a deal. Most people are aware of that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Proprietary hardware. Guys, that's Microtech's thing. They don't want you getting into their knives. It's a thing where if you do, or you make your own tool to get in there, or you just force it with a pair of pliers, which I wouldn't recommend, they're gonna void your warranty. So yeah, that's a downside. It's really nice to be able to maintain your knives, absolutely. And by the way, this knife is running on, I don't know if we're actually gonna be able to see it. It is running on phosphor bronze, so that we can't really get in there. So in terms of whether or not gunk's really going to get in there and mess stuff up, no, it's made in a way that's really going to repel stuff like that. So there's not going to be nearly as much of a need to get in there and clean things out versus, say, a knife that's utilizing bearings. Gunk can get in there, and you might need to get in there and clean it out. Though I'll admit, yeah, it's nice to be able to get in and clean your knife out. You do have to send this knife back in. You know, if you're using it and you find that it's not deploying like it used to, or it's failing in some way, you'll have to send it back into Microtech to get everything cleaned back up, and then it'll have to come back to you. That's just the way that it is. You do have a nice little lanyard hole for some 550. You've got this sort of seam structure back here with a little bit of jimping. It's nice. You know, the jimping is in the right place. It's not. This knife is very comfortable, whether you want to grip it back here or choke up, or you want to hold it upside down for whatever reason. It's comfortable. I will say there's a little bit of a bill on the pocket clip. This whole pocket clip could have been shortened, and that bill could be a little more that way instead of this way. But it is what it is. You know, in terms of the surface of the aluminum, getting this knife in and out of your pocket, it's really easy. One-handed, no problem. That's about how much of the knife is sticking out. Not that big of a deal. These knives do come absolutely perfectly centered, and like I said, they lock up 100% solid. So downsides, you have proprietary hardware. You can't get in there and clean it out without sending it back. That kind of stinks. This area up here could probably have been a choil. There's room to have some of this material knocked down and make use of that, but not really that big of a deal. There's some billboarding on the front that's a little bit ugly, but not that big of a deal. And then the pocket clip sticks up a little bit, probably could have been a little bit shorter. The worst part about the knife is the hardware. Other than that, though, this is a super functional automatic. I always talk about the ProTech TR3 being like the most quintessential side opening automatic knife out there, but now having handled the LUDT for roughly the same price, which by the way, guys, these start at about $238, which is, in my opinion, a good price for a US automatic of this caliber and this quality. I think I'm gonna switch my most recommended side opening automatic knife to the Microtech LUDT. There's an advantage in the blade shape, the carry profile, in my opinion, and just the overall feel of it, and of course the blade steel. I think a lot more people are going to prefer 204P to 154cm, which is what the TR3 comes in, you know, for this price range. Now, is this knife going to be for everybody? No. If you don't like automatic knives, you know, this knife, you're not going to see a whole lot more value in this versus, let's say you just love your 04 or your 0562 CF that you paid $240 or $260 for, you know, or whatever. Insert whatever knife that's not automatic that runs about $240. But if you're looking for a side opening automatic knife, you want a high quality US made knife with great blade steel, great ergonomics, great fit and finish, and you're okay with dealing with some proprietary hardware, there is nothing I can recommend more to you than this guy right here. I think this is one of the very best side opening automatic knives that I have ever handled, and I can absolutely recommend it. Unfortunately, there is no Amazon affiliate link for this knife, so if you want to buy it, I'm still going to recommend it. There's just no way you can buy it and help support my channel. That's okay. Don't worry about that. But yeah, if you're looking for this and it's legal in your area, pick one up. This thing's awesome. The fact that you can get it in so many different colors is super cool. I love it. This is really cool. Spirited Whiskey, thanks for letting me take a look at this. This was an absolute joy. I've been playing with this guy a lot. It's really, really fun to play with. But guys, that's going to be pretty much it for the overview and review today. If you enjoyed this video in any way, shape, or form, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.